You're listening to The Luxury Item, the podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the luxury industry. Here's your host, Scott Kerr.
British luxury is known for its craftsmanship, attention to detail, and commitment to excellence. Ettinger is one of those brands that exemplify British luxury. Founded by Jerry Ettinger and his father in 1934, the company has for the most part of its life made high-quality leather goods for other brands. When Robert Ettinger, the eldest son of founder Jerry Ettinger, and who is my guest on The Luxury Item today, took over the reins of the company in 1995, he developed a strategy which would lead Ettinger becoming a brand in its own right and earning an international name for itself. The luxury, quality, and discretion that is the hallmark of Ettinger's success is witnessed by the fact that Ettinger has been manufacturing leather goods for members of the royal family for many years. Further proof was evident when Ettinger was granted a royal warrant by the Prince of Wales in 1996. And this year, King Charles III granted Ettinger a new royal warrant, making it one of the first companies to receive a royal warrant under the new reign. Welcome to The Luxury Item, Robert.
It's very good to be with you. Thank you.
I'm so happy you can join me. Ettinger is one of those heritage brands that has been able to sustain its reputation over the decades. And Robert, I think a great place to start is if you can share with listeners a short overview of how the brand was born and its rise to success.
Well, in fact, it was my grandfather and my father who started the business in 1934. They came to England from Germany, where they were military tailors. And they wanted to carry on with a business that was also making things. And so they had a contact to a wonderful leather goods factory in Germany. And to start with, they became their agents in the UK. And that worked very well. But after a few years, my father really wanted to, like they had in Germany in the tailoring business, have their own workshops and factory. And so they started a small factory in a part of London which was known for its leather goods manufacturing, which was near Smithfield, the meat market. Well, obviously meat equals leather. It was near the River Thames for the tanneries, and there were lots of other manufacturers there. So there was supply as well of fittings and leathers and all the things one needs to make the product.
When Jerry started growing the brand, there were plenty of competitors playing in the luxury leather goods space. London was renowned for its leather making industry, and many companies were manufacturing high-end leather products. How did your father stand out from the competition? Did he even think about building a brand at that time?
Well, he didn't think about just building a brand, although even from the beginning, and in fact for our 90th anniversary this year, they used a logo. It was a guardsman, a Buckingham Palace guardsman with the name Ettinger underneath it. So the brand was always there, but it wasn't marketed in the way that one has to nowadays. And they had a lot of other products. They did then import some very nice gift items, which you couldn't brand with Ettinger because they weren't necessarily made of leather.
And it was a family business, so I'm sure your father wanted you to carry the torch at some point. Was going into the family business your ambition too, or did you take more of a winding road before you landed at the company?
I took a very winding road, I'm afraid. I'm not even afraid to say, but my parents, my father was German, my mother was Austrian, and they were great skiers. And from the age of 3, they took my brother and I skiing to Switzerland and Austria and all sorts of places. And it got into our blood. And when I was 18, I did a ski instructor's exam, the British ski instructor's exam in Scotland, which wasn't the nicest of places. It was freezing cold. But we learned how to teach and ski. And then I worked for a few years for the British Ski Club during the winter, almost full time. And after a few years, my father sat me down because in the summer I did come and work in the business. And he said, look, Robert, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a ski instructor all your life? Or do you want to work in the family business? And I must say it was a hard decision. It was being a ski instructor in one's 20s was a fantastic way of life.
Of course.
But I thought about it. And in the end, I said, yep, Dad, I'd like to carry on skiing a few weeks in the winter, my holidays, but I'll join the business. And well, the rest is history.
And in 1995, you took over the reins from your father. What was the state of the business at that time? And in your new role, where did you see the immediate opportunities to grow?
I think the business was in a good state. I mean, he and my grandfather built up a very solid business. They didn't believe in borrowing money. They bought properties for the business. But what I thought was that we should really concentrate just on leather products and not the gift items. And I don't know how it came to me, but I woke up one morning and said, let's concentrate. Let's be experts. Let's be the people to go to for your British leather goods.
And not long after you became CEO, the brand was granted the very prestigious Royal Seal of Approval a year later in the form of a Royal Warrant from the Prince of Wales. How did that change your brand strategy, and how did that change your business overall?
Well, it was a great accolade to be granted a Royal Warrant. And in fact, it takes 5 years of supplying the royal family, be it then the Queen or the Prince of Wales, on a continuous basis before you're even considered. And even then, it's not automatic that you get the warrant. But one January morning, about after 6 years, in fact, it took, we got a letter granting us the Royal Warrant to the Prince of Wales as manufacturers of leather goods. And that was when I and the business, my colleagues in the business, thought this is when we've really got to start building the brand.
And Ettinger is one of the last remaining leather manufacturers in the UK. Maintaining full production in England gives you total control over raw materials, production, and the finish. How has having your factory and entire design and production team, all based in the UK, been a competitive advantage for you?
Well, it gives us total control, you're right. And also, we can make decisions quickly. We don't have to have board meetings about, well, I mean, we have meetings, but, you know, it's done, being a small, medium-sized business, it's done quickly. And that's been a real competitive advantage for Ettinger's. It also means we can travel all over Europe finding the best raw materials. We buy where we can in the UK, in England, but if there's something better in France or Germany, we will buy it there. And that's really the way we've worked for many, many years.
And how do you work with tanneries to ensure the leather is suitable to meet your standards?
Well, we visit the tanneries to start with. We like to actually go in and see the production and how it's made, and also get a feeling for the business and the people who are working in that business. And once we start working with the tannery, we even go to the tannery every time we put an order in, and they say, look, your order's ready. And we go in and make sure that it's all up to the Ettinger quality. And we do reject some skins. Often we do. But that means actually they work harder for us because they know what we need. It's got to be perfection.
When you have an idea for a new collection, how do you and your teams go about deciding what leather to use, the right colorway, and the design concept itself? What's the process?
Well, we do that all in-house. We have brainstorming sessions, we call them, around a big white table in our showroom. And it's not just the salespeople, it's also the manufacturing side from the factory. Because if we have an idea, it's got to be makeable. It's got to be easy to make and possible to make. And if it isn't easy to make, it would be too expensive to sell. And we come up with the ideas of products before colorways and what leather to use. I mean, we had a brainstorming session about 6 months ago and came up with the idea of travel games. And we've just launched them. And they're going so well. And everybody's so pleased because so many people in the business had some say in what we did. And then when we make a product, we then have to test it. And sometimes in some of our more complicated products, like our business cases and attaché cases, I will take them on a business trip for 6 to 9 months to test them out. And often I come back and say, well, actually, the handles are a bit too short, or it needs another pocket in there for my passport and cash. And that is also important because things have to be practical. It's all very well them looking very nice, but they've got to work.
And so you do real world testing, if you will.
We do real world testing, not just me, even in the factory. We sometimes make a product and give it to 4 or 5 of the people who make the product, and they use them for 3 or 4 months. And things come out which improves them.
So you have this new collection. What goes into developing a marketing strategy to support that new collection?
Well, then we look at who we want to sell it to. And it isn't just to our existing retailers. For instance, one of our new products is a pill case. It's a compartments to hold Monday to Sunday pills for morning, evening, and afternoon, and supplements. So many people take supplements now, not just pills because they're not feeling well.
Mhm.
And we put it into a beautiful leather case. But we thought, we can sell it to our existing suppliers, but we can also sell it to pharmacists. And this is what we did. And we've gone out to a few. Do you call them pharmacists in the US?
Yes.
Or you do, or we call it a chemist here often.
Chemist,
but
right.
Chemist. And we've opened up some new accounts, and they're doing so well because people go in there, they get all their pills, and they think, now, how am I going to remember to take that pill on Monday and that one on Tuesday morning and that one on Tuesday afternoon? And we make their life easy. And so we developed a whole new retail area for our products.
So it sounds like you're creating products that are built into their everyday lives.
Yes, and the games and all sorts
right.
of and boxes or cases to hold your watches when you travel. They're about a lifestyle, and that's important because although everybody says the world's going cashless, we still sell a lot of wallets and purses because you need somewhere to put your credit cards, and if you're traveling to some other countries, they still take a lot of cash, and in fact, some places. I mean, I've just come back from Greece and they didn't even want credit cards in some of the tavernas and hotels. They want cash. So you need somewhere to hold it.
I want to talk a little bit about the Ettinger customer. You said that Ettinger has multi-generational appeal. Our customers come from all ages and all walks of life. We are neither high fashion, globally specific, or even age specific. There are other high quality luxury leather accessory brands that lean into their heritage and craftsmanship. What type of person is attracted to Ettinger?
Well, it's an interesting question because until we started our own website about 10, 11 years ago, we didn't really know because we were selling into retailers and they sold on, but we didn't have connection with the end user. But now we started selling into our people who communicate with us, and we have questionnaires about once or twice a year. And we were surprised that actually our customer was younger than we thought. The biggest sales are to people between the ages of 24 and 54. And that's good. We're very pleased about that because our worry before was we were selling to a generation and they were getting older, and we weren't then selling to the younger generations, but it's not so.
Are your customers mostly male?
They have been in the past, but because of all the products we're now doing and the gift items, we're getting more and more female buyers and women who buy gifts for their menfolk as well.
And younger people are increasingly using their phones for purposes that older adults would use a traditional wallet for, like carrying documents such as driver's licenses, boarding passes, cash, debit cards, and even tickets. Has the trend of a wallet-free lifestyle among Gen Z and millennials changed your product strategy?
It's interesting. I think on a daily basis, the younger people will use their phones more to do whatever, to show their airline ticket or to buy product. But we have customers coming into our showroom who are in their early 20s, and they do still buy wallets because they say when they go out on a Saturday evening, on a Friday evening, and they're in the bars and the pubs, they like to have something that's got a nice feel to it, has got color to it. It's a bit of a fashion statement, particularly for men, because men can't dress up in a way that women can in all the high fashions that change all the time. So for men, things like wallets and card cases and their cufflinks and these sort of things is an expression of what they are.
And you launched your retail website in 2010. Like many luxury brands at the time, you were slower to e-commerce. So now what share is your online business these days?
The share is going to be about 20% this year, and it's grown in the last 6 months. We brought in a new team actually by 50% at the moment, which is phenomenal growth. Yeah. Whereas, some of the retail growth is slower than that, quite a bit slower. So, I mean, selling online, certainly in the US, which is now our biggest online business, it's even taken over the UK, is growing
Ettinger exports 90% of what it makes to 35 countries spanning across the US, Japan, Korea, then China and Europe. For brands like Ettinger, the market for small leather goods is crowded, especially in the United States and China. Are you finding the US more of a challenge where you're not only competing head to head with other heritage brands, but also with contemporary brands that have filled the gaps in the market?
Yes, I mean, the US, it's interesting that it is our biggest market for our own web sales. So that tells us that people in the States like Ettinger products. We've got a lot of competition, there's no doubt about it. But I think as we are one of the last British companies, and our products do look British, they like what we do, they like the Royal Warrant. They like the colorways of Ettinger. We're known for our color, a slight quirkiness. You open up a wallet that's maybe black outside, but inside it's orange or blue or purple, and we're different.
And Japan has long been an important market for Ettinger. You've had a presence there for a while now, and the brand awareness there is very strong. Getting distribution in Japan in the mid 1990s must have been a game changer for you.
It was. And in fact, I've just come back from Japan 2 days ago. I go every year for 10 days, visit all the stores and our own shops. It was a game changer. I mean, the Japanese market for anything, they want perfection. And they're right. And we've learned a lot from when we first started going into the Japanese market about how to create everything to 120%. And if you can do that for Japan, then it's good enough for anywhere in the world. And in Japan, it's a market where things grow slowly, but they keep on growing. It's not a helter-skelter sort of business out there.
Right.
And over the years, it's grown and grown. And in fact, it's our 25th year of working with the same distributor, which is tremendous news.
And when you develop products for the Japanese or Chinese markets, do you take into consideration regional tastes and cultural differences?
Yes, we do. I mean, for instance, in Japan, in the US and England, where we make a wallet where it's got room for notes and 3 credit card slots either side, that doesn't sell very well in Japan. In Japan, the one that sells is the same size wallet, but it's only got room for 3 credit cards on one side. And on the other side, it's got a coin purse. And I learned this because once when I was in Japan, I went to pay for something and I took coins out of my trouser pocket. And there were some horrified looks. And I said, have I done anything wrong? And they said, no, Robert, the coins are dirty. You mustn't put coins into your pocket. You must put coins into a small purse. Hence, we designed the wallet with a little purse, and they still keep coins in there meticulously. That's the difference.
And Ettinger products are sold at a number of select retailers worldwide. The customer relationship with the Ettinger brand could sometimes be a hit or miss, depending, of course, on the retailer. How do you work with your retail partners to ensure they're creating the most value for Ettinger at that touch point?
Well, we do provide our retailers and free of charge display mats, beautifully stitched leather display mats, plaques with our name on and the Royal Warrant. And we do all that. And in fact, I think any retailer that wants to buy Ettinger has got to be of a certain level. Otherwise, their customers wouldn't buy our products at the price they are. And we also always talk to retailers. We ask them to send us pictures of their store, and we chat to them several times, and we get the feeling about the business. And that, on the whole, has really worked well for us.
There has been a big uptick in demand from luxury shoppers for bespoke tailoring and product personalization. Ettinger jumped into the bespoke game in 2019 with the launch of a service that allows customers to customize their own luxury leather goods. It's not an easy thing to launch a bespoke service. So what was your motivating factor for doing that?
It was Japan again. They came to us and said, our customers, the retailers and the retailers' customers, want to be able to buy something that no one else has. And we thought about it. We thought, well, it's not like making a suit made to measure. A wallet or a credit card case has still got to hold notes and credit cards. You can't, make it longer and wider because they'll fall out. But what we offer, and we worked this out with the Japanese, was they can choose from 40 different leather colors, and they can have different leather colors outside and inside, and each of the credit card pockets can be different colors. We've done some with pink, blue, and red, and green, and orange, and yellow. They can then choose the stitch color from 60 colors of stitching on the outside and the inside, and it can vary. They can choose the lining color, and they can choose the blocking. The blocking can be in gold. They can have their name on it in gold or silver, or just blind embossed, which is a more discreet way. So in the end, they've got something that no one else can have. It's still a purse or a wallet, but it's different.
You know, the term quintessentially British seems to be often tied to Ettinger. Could you elaborate on what that expression means?
Yeah, I think British wallets tend to use leathers a little more solid, a little bit heavier. It's a bit like if you look at an Italian product. I mean, if you looked at an Italian shoe, for instance, it's lightweight. It's built for the Italian climate. Whereas a British shoe, it is made more solid. It's got a slightly thicker sole to allow for the weather and the rain. And now there's a compromise. Ettinger is slim and elegant, but it's got, I mean, we use bridle leather, which is very British. The bridle leather that they used to make saddles and still make saddles out of. We've always used that because, in fact, the factory in the beginning used to make saddles. And then the factory that we bought in the Midlands now, they started in 1890 making saddles. And in the 1920s, when the motor car came into being, the need for horses' saddles went down, and they had all this bridle leather. And they thought, what are we going to do with it? They started making wallets out of it. They had the materials, they made a new product, and that's what we're still doing.
And the British luxury sector is broad and diverse with strengths in a wide variety of industries. You don't have any large-scale luxury conglomerates, but you have extremely significant global players. British luxury is often associated with style, elegance, innovation, and creativity, with many British brands making made in Britain a core part of their identity. What does British luxury mean to you, and what makes it so alluring to many people?
British luxury is slightly understated. We don't put our logos in gold on the outside. And that's very British. It's a bit like in the city of London, in the financial area, men do still wear darker suits, but their lining might be bright blue or bright pink. And that's a bit like Ettinger. It's a bit quirky. It's a bit different. It means we're British, but we're not boring.
And Ettinger has done a number of interesting collaborations through the years, including most recently with Netflix TV series The Gentleman, creating a collection central to the series plotline. How did that whole partnership come about?
We were approached by Netflix. They wanted to work with some British brands, and they chose a British tailor and a British perfumier and Ettinger. And we worked on making products that were a little bit different with their logo on as well as ours, special packaging, and it's been tremendously successful for us and has helped build the Ettinger brand worldwide because the series is being shown worldwide.
Similarly, with Netflix, Emily in Paris has been a powerful platform for luxury brands creating real-world impact for those prominently featured in the show. Have you seen a lift since the series began?
Yes, it's certainly helped our sales, and it's helped us sell all the other Ettinger products as well, because people then go onto the Ettinger website and they might look at the Gentleman collection, but then they scroll down and look at other things. So it's really opened us up to a lot more people.
Do you think there's more entertainment in your future?
I think so. Yes, definitely. I mean, we enjoyed doing it, designing it, working with it, and yes, if we're approached or we can think of somebody to approach, then we will do so.
You also collaborated with American fashion designer Todd Snyder, who's known for his collaborations with iconic brands. Is that the first time Ettinger has reached across the pond, if you will, to collaborate with an American brand?
Yes, it is the first time. And you know, I think we got on very well. There were brand synergies. Our products are well made and well designed and fashionable to a certain extent, but not high fashion. And I think that's, you know, Todd Snyder, it is very fashionable when you go in their stores, but it's fashion that you can carry on wearing for years. It isn't sort of here today and gone tomorrow.
Oftentimes, luxury brands are so invested in legacy and heritage, innovation gets the short shrift. How do you think about innovation for Ettinger?
I think when my father and grandfather were running the business, they could carry on making the same products year in, year out. And it worked. People accepted that. But nowadays, if you try to do that, the company would go backwards. You have to introduce new product, new ideas, new colors, and innovation all the time. There's no standing still. It's hard work, it's enjoyable, but it's the only way to build a business and move it forward.
So, Robert, my final question is the luxury item question, which I ask all my guests. So, if you were stranded on a deserted island and you could only have one single luxury item with you, what would that luxury item be? It can't be any form of air or water transportation to get you off that island or anything that requires mobile service so you can call somebody to get you off that island. Just you on this lonely island with lots of sand, palm trees, miles and miles of ocean, maybe a few hermit crabs walking along the water's edge. What would that one single luxury item you would like to have with you on that island?
That is one of the hardest questions I've ever been asked. You sort of think of your favorite box of chocolates or some caviar or whatever, but no, that wouldn't be what I would take. I'm just thinking, that's interesting, actually. I think one thing that I consider a luxury nowadays is my dog. My dog, it eats a lot of food. It goes to the veterinary to get looked after, which is very expensive. When I go away on business or holiday, it stays in a dog hotel, which is expensive. Therefore, it's a luxury because it costs a lot of money. So if I may, can I bring my dog?
Of course.
And my dog loves swimming, so it would enjoy the sea. It will roll in the sand, and it would always be happy to see me. That's the beauty of a dog.
Robert Ettinger, CEO of Ettinger, thank you so much for joining me on The Luxury Item.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for this episode of the Luxury Item Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and entertaining, I would be really grateful if you can share it with a friend or colleague. I would love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other listeners find us. The Luxury Item Podcast is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Kerr. Until next time.